Good evening, good morning, and good day. Welcome to Expandly and welcome to this Expandly webinar, part of the Global Expansion Series for e-commerce sellers. My name is Riki and I'm the General Manager at Expandly, a SaaS-based international expansion tool to unlock new territories. You can check us out at expandly.com. The Global Expansion Series seeks to explore innovative ways to accelerate and optimize the overseas growth of your business. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Tong, who's the Commercial Director of Temu. Now, it's been rocking a lot of people's worlds, both sellers and buyers alike, in generations. You know, from young buyers right up to older ones. No one can really not take consideration for Temu, but it comes with a lot of mystifying facts. So, Tony, welcome to the webinar, and thank you so much for joining us. There's a lot of exciting stuff in preparation for this that I've learned, so I'm really excited to share that with the viewers today.
Yeah.
Shall we really start by doing talking a little bit about how you started at Temu and what your function is here in over in the UK?
Of course. Thank you, Ricky, for having me. My name is Tony. I recently joined Temu. My main responsibility actually is recruiting local sellers to really unlock the local supply to meet the booming demand on Temu. So yeah, that's my main focus at this stage.
So as we've been getting set up, and we'll run into some of the bits and pieces that we've learned over the last few days, you know, there's been there's a fair amount of kind of seller skepticism when it comes to Temu and the way in which trade comes into the country in particular. So there's some really interesting pieces in here which are actually quite exciting in terms of some quite unique opportunities for sellers, existing e-commerce sellers who are selling in the UK, who have got inventory, either their own inventory direct to consumer. Particularly, we'll find out inventory which is perhaps been aged or sitting around for some time. But it doesn't matter which platform you're selling on or how you're doing it. So next, let's go into some slides, Lulu, if we can, and move it into the different reasons. So what we're going to concentrate on is 5 reasons why you should sell on Temu, and I'm going to put some illustration to the back of that of where that opportunity exists for e-commerce sellers specifically in those different places. So Tony, love to run through your slides and give us let us know what those 5 reasons are.
Yeah, of course. I think the first one probably is the most obvious one. We do have a growing popularity globally as a marketplace. So if you look at the screen, we are recently become the second most visited global marketplace based on data from the similar web. And also, if you look at the territory we cover, we are covering almost 70 countries. Most of the kind of more e-commerce established countries we already have the presence. We are the #1 downloaded shopping app in a lot of countries, and we are serving 467 million unique customers in 23. I'm pretty sure the number will become bigger in 2024. What's also quite impressive is we are very good to creating key value item, top selling lines. So we have a single product selling 10,000 SKUs within a day, and we do have sellers selling more than 30,000 SKUs within a day. So in general, it is a growing popularity, growing traffic. Lulu, can we go to next slide, please? So this is just a double click about our app downloads, right? So we are very app first marketplaces. So if you look at the download across all the major markets, we are #1 in most countries within the shopping sector. And for those people in front of the camera who came from US, you will be aware we are a sponsor Super Bowl 2 years in a row. That shows the level of investment we put into driving the velocity and traffic. Next slide, please. The other thing apart from the huge traffic we're receiving, we're also doing a pretty good job in terms of engaging customers. If you look at the graph on the left-hand side, we see a steady growth of terms of average order value through our very engaging content, gamification, and also much more curated shopping experience. So customer can spend more and always finding the products they're interested. Also on the right-hand side, as a result, customers spending more time within our app compared with the major competitors. That's also, again, creating opportunities for the sellers to engage customers and building out the basket throughout the shopping journey. Next slide, please. We bring you a lot of traffic, but equally we're a very cost-effective selling platform. I understanding many of you selling on other marketplaces, so probably quite familiar with the cost structure. But on Temu, one thing we stand out is we don't have a take rate, and we don't charge commission. Often when I engage a new seller, they will say, "What is your take rate? What is your rate table?" And we don't have a take rate. Equally, we don't charge sellers by driving traffic to the products on the platform. We do offer different tools. You can drive in the traffic, but it's largely dependent on the price, depending on your conversion, depending on your service level, rather than how much you pay us. So that's probably the biggest difference compared with other marketplaces. Next slide, please. The third reason I would say, you are filling inventory gap. If you go to next slide, it's like, if you look at Temu now, there are a lot of inventory, but however, they have certain share some common challenges, right? So they tend to have a longer delivery because we ship it from China. Potentially have a higher proportion of unbranded products, and because we are mainly selling through smaller parcels. So if the products are too heavy, too bulky, it is very hard for us to ship internationally. So if you think about it as a local seller, you do bring a point differentiation because you are offering much competitive delivery time. Very important in those need-based category. For example, if I need a Halloween costume or last-minute shopping for Christmas, I cannot spend 5 to 10 days waiting for it. And you also have access to a more branded, established inventory, which the Chinese supply chain will struggle. So in general, I feel you have a good chance to bring a point differentiation and enjoy the velocity.
So that's quite an important point there, Tony, isn't it? Because what we're suggesting here is that local sellers have a super unique opportunity that's separated from your sellers who are coming in potentially with white branded goods from China, or an alternative route for selling those goods, because they have some advantages which don't exist by those sellers.
Yeah, our priority always is creating incremental value to the platform and to the customers. We don't have intention to actually creating unhealthy competition just between the international imports and the domestic, because that defeating the purpose. We want to bring incremental value to customers for both sides.
This is going to be about specific types of SKUs, then, isn't it? About certain categories. Perhaps we'll come on to that in a bit.
Yes, so we need to be very surgical. And next reason you want to join Temu and also want to do it now is we actually have a lot of empty shelf to be fulfilled. So I'll give you 2 examples. Right? On the left hand side, I just search a very generic term, protein powder, right? One of the top selling lines in other marketplaces. And what you can see, I didn't put any filters on it, just a very general search term. Your first search result page, there's no actual the protein powder, right? It's all about the accessories and bottles. One thing is quite interesting is if you look at some of the products, right, they're selling more than 10,000 units already. So it means there's 10,000 customers will potentially buy protein powder. Yes, but they buy bottles, right? Because we don't have a protein. So ideally, people buy in bundles, right? So that's one example. And on the right hand side, engine oil, again, chemical stuff. We don't want to ship it over the airlines. Is a potential risk. But if you look at you search engine oil, there's so many tools, accessories, but we don't have the engine oil, right? So that's the 2 example out of many, and we think local sellers can take the first move advantage.
Well, Tony, we know that in our warehouses as part of the Expandly group, nearly a third of the products in our warehouses, a warehouse in the UK and in the EU, and our Netherlands warehouse, are supplements. Supplements that you might take as tablets, supplements that you might take in shakes, that you might mix into these type of bottles. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them. These are hugely prevalent items which are being sold online. Normally with margins that are commensurate with online sales, and they're typically just being sold on 1 or 2 marketplaces. So that's not precisely what you've put in that example there, but gives you an indication of the stocks here. It's sitting there, and we'll cover some of that in just a second. But so 2 examples. I think we've got a whole list of other demands as well, haven't we? Yeah, let's talk about these empty shelves.
Yeah, so we got 3 tiers. So as I mentioned earlier, right, we want to be super surgical. What type of inventory we want to bring from the local sellers to complement the inventory currently import from China. So tier 1 we call empty shelf because there's a constraint about the current supply chain. So we don't have access like the very branded FMCG products through the food supplement, as Riki just mentioned, will be very much empty shelf. And the media books because we don't have the English book in the Chinese publishers. Engine oil, chemicals, liquid is mainly because of logistic constraints. So these ones are you've got demand there and there's nothing there, nothing on supply side at this stage. And the tier 2 we call it spectrum value. This means like we already have a product from China, but the things like a customer sometimes want to buy something more branded, established, maybe as a gift but maybe as like I want to use something for themselves. So there's many things like this, right? So like health and beauty, fragrance, a customer show a very strong interest about branded items, especially for those well-known branded, and also something like power tools. This a DIY person. They really trust a small number of brands bring the highest quality. So there are products is saying they will be more branded, higher ASP, but it's as perfect complementary towards the inventory we already have. And the third one is just, again, is a constraint because of the international shipping, right? It's too heavy, too bulky, too fragile. We are largely rely on the local supply to fulfill the customer demand.
So these are just golden opportunities. They're being searched for. The infrastructure's there. Potentially, we'll understand perhaps later, the stock's already there waiting to be sold D2C or to other marketplaces, and it's a cheaper way of putting it in. So there's real need, there's real supply and demand here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Next slide, then, really.
Next slide, please. And the number 5, the benefit is more handhold support. So on the left-hand side is I would say a flow chart about what is your responsibility and what is the platform's responsibility. The thing I can call out is multiple touch points from the team to support you. You will be approached by the BD manager and be able to send you an invitation link because it's invitation only in terms of registration. And once you apply for a store, the moment that you have a store completely registered, there will be an operations or account manager assigned to you, and you'll have a dedicated point of contact if you have any questions throughout the process. And once you start listing the products, and there will be a category manager bundled to the seller because the category manager bring the category expertise. For example, if you're selling food supplements, there's a category manager coming to telling you what is the most popular products, how you be able to passing our price verification, how you make sure, how can you kind of drive in additional velocity using different tools, and the category manager will be there to help. So throughout the process, you got a 1BD to open the door, sending you the invitation, account managers support you throughout the journey, and the category manager bring the industry expertise. So go ahead.
Couple of questions there, Tony. In terms of the listings themselves, what format do those listings come in as? Are they coming in as a CSV, or are they being taken from the marketplaces, or how do you need those listings to arrive?
So there's multiple ways you can list the products, right? Yeah, there's a CSV file which is quite similar to our competitors in terms of how you download them, how you're uploading them. There are various ERP providers, will help you speed up the listing process. So yeah, so it's very similar to our competitors in terms of how you listing stuff. Yeah.
We're actually in the process of very nearly finished the development sprint for adding Temu into Expandly, precisely for this reason, because our clients and sellers are wanting to understand how to list their products. So at that point, of course, that will be a simple listing conversion. And then tell me a little bit about the price verification piece. What does that look like, the price verification?
Yeah, so this is probably the point which we are quite different to the other marketplaces. So the price verification, in a simple term, is just to make sure before the products have exposure to the traffic, we did some evaluation, make sure the products, the price is appealing. There's a multiple criteria behind that process. But the once we've completed the verification, and we do believe that's driving good conversion, and then we will bring the traffic towards those listings. So that's one unique steps compared with other marketplaces. But there's a very strong correlation. You pass price verification, you see good velocity that way.
I guess that ties that's one of the reasons why we're talking here about a quite timely and unique opportunity for Temu for sellers who are based in their own country, for instance, or want to come on, perhaps international sellers but already selling in a particular territory, maybe US sellers selling in the UK, for instance, specifically because I'm imagining for that verification, the less competition that there is for those particular categories, the easier that price verification becomes.
Yes, so we do looking at both internal and external signals, but if the product is unique to the platform, they always have a better chance to pass price verification. You're right.
Perfect. Okay,
yeah.
Just want in which way? So just wanted to touch. There's a question here from Owen. Owen, appreciate your the question you put on about Temu about being a race to the bottom, and that's what I meant right at the beginning here about this kind of skepticism. We're not talking here, Tony, are we, about specifically competing with small, easily shipped, white branded goods that are coming from that traditional or that early adopting Temu route, are we? That's not really what we're talking about here.
Yes, not. So I think I wouldn't recommend personally if you are selling a white label product doesn't have a recognized brand or doesn't fit any criteria we just highlighted earlier, because that will be race for the button. I wouldn't recommend it. So the opportunity we put forward here is actually differentiation. You bring a different point of view, a different point of inventory into our ecosystem, and the meet the demand we currently cannot meet. That's the key point. Yeah.
It's really refreshing where a marketplace can come to a place like this to say, hey, look, we really need these pieces on the marketplace. We really want to help build out the value proposition for the buyers. So it's a really great and like I say, very timely opportunity on that front. But Owen, to answer your question, that's not really what we're focusing on here in terms of those pieces. And online buyers are super savvy. They're sophisticated in all of the e-commerce markets across North America and Europe and beyond, China, all the e-commerce markets that are developed. Buyers are savvy. They know what they want to buy based on how fast they need it, the type of goods that they're going to buy, and they know where to go and search for these things. Some items they might buy from one marketplace, some things they may have to go to a bricks and mortar store because they need to touch it and feel it first. And in other places, they'll know that other marketplaces represent the best value for money, but also the best opportunity to get their hands on exactly the item they want. So that's we're specifically talking here about untapped demand for particular product types that far outweighs on the one of the world's most downloaded apps that is absolutely currently untapped, as Tony calls them, empty shelves. So a real gem of an opportunity for e-commerce sellers, perhaps. Lily, if we go on to the next slide for me, because I think that kind of segues in quite nicely to piece of what that piece looks like. Because actually, what we're focusing here, I mean, Expandy handles thousands of clients around the world, but hundreds of them in our own 3PLs and our own warehouses. And I think it's fair to say, from a selling perspective, e-commerce has been much harder. The kind of post-COVID boom in e-commerce, lots and lots of things were being sold, and things have become, for many sellers, things have become quite a bit harder work in terms of keeping your listings at the top of the ranking, making sure you've got the right products in the right time, especially for international sales. And I also think it's fair to say, not just in our 3PL, but in all the 3PLs, warehouses, 3PPs around the world, there's a good deal of aging stock, which is being paid for every single day. Whether it's your own warehouse and you've got direct costs, or it's in a third-party warehouse and those costs are being invoiced to you from that third-party warehouse. Here, if those categories, those SKUs are of the right kind of category, we've got a really golden opportunity. Because as Tony pointed out, you've got dramatically decreased costs. Your business model has been put together by perhaps the cost of selling on one marketplace, and you can compress those costs without changing your margin, your overall margin, working margin yourself. When it comes to that 3PL stock, we've got a number of different options. You can reduce the price on current marketplaces, but then you really are crushing your margin. And when it comes to Black Fridays, when it comes to specific sales opportunities on other marketplaces, you're constantly being asked to compress your margin. And that works okay if you're wanting to move age stock, but move a long one to additional sales channels like we're asking here. If we can compress the cost of being on a marketplace and invite those goods to be pushed in front of a new audience, then a real opportunity exists. And of course, the third way you can do that is to carve margin entirely and sell to wholesale, which is, of course, the fastest way to do it, perhaps, but also the slowest and the lowest margin. So I just wanted to touch on what that bit looks like, because actually what the opportunity that we're looking at here is ways in which to churn our stock with minimal investment, especially those aged stock, maybe those items that have already been removed from other marketplaces because index numbers are too high, or for whatever reason, those goods have come back. And you're looking for really unique opportunities to make that stock churn faster. So let's running through what the next slide, please, Lily. What that looks like in terms of the e-commerce journey and who we're focused on here. We're not specifically here talking, or we're probably not talking about new sellers. But if anyone comes across or is watching this webinar and they're curious about selling online because perhaps they've got a SKU category, then that Tony's been talking about, then you're going to need to go through the first part of what this looks like, and I'll touch on a few of the most important pieces in the next slide. But in the meantime, in the main part, what we're talking about here is sort of sections 7 and 8 on the expansion journey, where you've already come through most of these pieces. And the reason why I wanted to point that bit out was you've already done those costs. You don't pay twice to be VAT registered. You pay once for all of your sales, and you manage those sales based on your marketplace. If you're going to come to an overseas market, an overseas territory, we would always recommend that you're selling omni-channel. So this is not new news to an e-commerce seller. Selling on other marketplaces is as we'd expect a seller to gain success. Of the sellers that come into the UK and EU market that Expandly helps grow, only a small proportion of those really truly unlock the scale of success that can come from the potential trade of 500 million buyers across continental Europe. And that mainly that's because they're not they're stuck in one existing marketplace, and they're not exploring the opportunities that come from an omni marketplace approach. So it was really timely that we met and talked with Tony about how we could grow sellers, because that's what Expandly does. We're expanding e-commerce sellers, but most importantly, a really timely and unique opportunity if you've got the right kind of categories. So whether you're category king or whether you're starting out, if you are starting out, then you're going to need to go through this process of compliance and arranging that fulfillment. But once that's happened, you can sell on as many marketplaces as you like, and you can start your own website and you can sell yourself if you like. So I think that this opportunity exists most definitely and most urgently for the types of product categories that we already showed in the previous slide, and perhaps right at the end, Lily will flash those back up again, so that you can take another hand over those. Because if you are selling products like these are the ones that we've got the most opportunity with, and especially the absolute platinum edge of that is if you're running any of these types of products. Some of them you're finding perhaps are a little aged, or you want to do something differently with them, because that's the most important part of the opportunity that comes out of the last sort of 25 minutes of talking. So Lulu, if we flash forward to the most important pieces and how they affect a Temu seller. So on to the next one, please. Yeah, perfect. So For any online seller, and Tony, I'll come back to you just to talk about how Temu requires these pieces for their setup before we run on to the onto what that setup piece looks like in seconds. The fundamental pieces of what's going to be required for selling online inside the UK, they're always the same. You're either going to need a responsible person or someone or a registered office. And for Temu, Tony will point out in a second, you'll need to either be a sole trader or have your own business entity, which Expandly can help you with. You'll need to be registered for VAT in those countries because you're going to store goods in the country. And you'll need to be registered for the extended producer responsibility regulations, which if you're selling on another marketplace, you already are. So you haven't got those. If you are specifically an Amazon seller, just an Amazon seller and not an eBay seller, you will require an entity set up, but you will make some savings on some of the costs that are attributed to your compliance for your Amazon store to offset that. It's not that much difference in cost, slightly different way of doing it. So small registration fee and then a slightly different way of accounting for those pieces, but ostensibly it's still being done in a similar way. So, and of course, if you're selling some of those clothing items, initially nothing that was on that list, some SKUs, some product categories might eventually be swept up by the requirements for DPP, for the Digital Product Passport, which involves submission to a portal for your regarding the regulations surrounding your goods for transparency and traceability. Initially is being launched for clothing, followed by electronics, neither of which were on Tony's hot list, but certainly something to be aware about. So fundamentally what we're saying, if you're an existing seller, the opportunity is free, ready to go, because you're already set up to be able to sell in that country and you probably already got stock. If you're a UK seller and you want to sell a Temu in the UK and you're already selling D2C, you're a D2C seller for your own website, you want another opportunity, or you're selling off Amazon, you've already got a company entity, maybe you're a sole trader, but fundamentally either of those things will work. Tony, talk me through the specific Temu requirements for getting an account set up. And actually, there's been multiple questions surrounding how we get a joining invitation and what the joining procedure is. So perhaps we could touch on that bit now, because I think that's interesting. Because the general consensus is that Temu's exclusive invitation only. So can we nudge you for an invitation?
Yeah, so it's an invitation only. The reason we go for invitation only is because we want to give us all the sellers join new platform at intensive care. So we do have a capacity challenges in terms of how many people we have. So every seller you're interested, you can reach out to Expandly. We're only asking for a full piece of information. Your basically your contact details, email or mobile phones. Then you got so your store name, can be your brand name, can be your store name, and then you're asking for the main category you're selling, for example, food supplement, and then estimate SKUs. This is all full information we need, and to be able to generate an invitation link for you. So once you have the invitation link, you will start the registration process. Yeah. So that's how we register. In terms of requirement, so currently the UK entity can only sell into UK market. But if you have the European entity, you can sell into all the main European market with a valid VAT registration. So we have what we haven't achieved is UK to EU export. And I know if there's some customers, sellers also from the US perspective, you can also register. We can also send you a separate link for the US registration. So there's a different registration for different countries. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's perhaps that answers your question, Rad. Thanks, Rad, for your question about getting an invitation for the US. So that's all. So that's fine. And Rebecca, thanks. One of our great Expandly clients. I'd love to do that to help you through getting that invitation to Temu personally. Rebecca, thank you much for putting your question on there, and also appreciate. Mark, thanks for suggesting that it was an easy setup. So, Lulu, go on to the next slide then, please. I think we're into the course of just summarizing what the opportunity is here. We've covered some of the questions in terms of actually, before we start on the summary, there's a couple here regarding the in terms of, we talked about the price point and the price verification. Can sellers do any kind of market analysis of their own before they come into the point of that price verification to to give them some kind of direct check of what they're going to expect, or is that something that has to happen at the Temu point?
So I think the normally what happens is once you register store, we will assign a category manager. Because it's the price verification. It really depends on what category you're selling. Are they branded, unbranded? Are you selling in other platform as well? How established the brand is. So it's very difficult to give you a one single answer for all of these sellers. So that's why we ask you to register first. Because it's simple setup, as Mark just pointed out. Once you registered, we can have, and you can show us what type of inventory you have, and then we can assign a right category manager to handhold you through the price verification. There's different formulas for different type of inventory. We just don't have the one answer for all type of thing. But there's many sellers already doing it, and they are past the price verification. It's not going to be a rocket science. It's quite straightforward, and given our cost of selling is also quite reasonable. So yes, I would recommend you to register first, and then you will have a category manager assigned to you to talk you through the approach. Yeah.
So let's just kind of summarize here, because I've actually become increasingly excited over the last few weeks for our sellers, because we're very passionate about e-commerce expansion here at Expandy. The clues in the name over the door. We're super excited about new opportunities and bringing sellers these kind of timely act now, because you to take to these kind of groundbreaking opportunities for domestic sellers. And we've spent a number of years looking at Temu from afar with this kind of envious view of high velocity, absolutely no access to be able to get stuck into this ourselves. And to be honest, in some cases, as you pointed out, to be honest, very little desire, because of the way things have been priced and the models and the types of products that are available, and in different types of products, varying different quality and things. And there's a few things that's been quite refreshing. We're running a scheme for sellers in China at the moment, and Tony wanted to point out, we talked about this when we were on the phone the other day, a slight revelationary, super high level of compliance checking when it comes to sellers coming into the region, and an awesome portal from a compliance perspective for looking at what that looks like. So to rebuff that as compliance specialists, and we're providing compliance for thousands of online sellers, and really top-notch checks of business entities, going concerns, of addresses, of validity, of responsible, of authorizations. So that part, really impressive to see how that bit works, to put you in on a level playing field, so that you're not spending money on compliance requirements on one marketplace only to be undercooked by sellers from elsewhere. So really useful to see that piece, and it's one of the reasons that give us confidence to provide a significant amount of increasing as a fast growing part of the Expandly offering, to provide those compliance services for sellers coming in from China and selling on Temu and indeed on other marketplaces. But so that part I think is quite exciting from our perspective, that we've got this huge access, unique opportunity specifically for these SKUs, immediate opportunities. And let's face it, if you're selling elsewhere, immediate opportunities with very little outlay. If you're not selling elsewhere and you want to get set up and you're selling those particular SKUs, still quite an exciting, still a super exciting opportunity as well. Question to Tony, is Temu open in Canada?
I need to double check on this, because we are expanding. So Temu definitely is in Canada, but it's more about, are we open towards the local sellers? Is a question. Okay. I probably need to double check. I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Joseph, appreciate your message there. You can get in touch to get yourself front of the list, top of the list, to be if and when that part arrives. So huge opportunity. Really appreciate your time, Tony, in terms of what that bit looks like. You mentioned right at the beginning that Temu was, right the way across 72 different countries, I seem to recall from the first slide. So there's a good chance that sellers from across Europe will be able to take advantage of the situation here. I do want to echo your point regarding the challenges of a UK seller moving cross-border into the EU. It works okay. That would need to be via our warehouse in the Netherlands. I wouldn't recommend that sellers go to town with selling direct to consumer cross UK to EU or EU to UK, either direction, post Brexit. That makes life significantly more challenging in terms of that operational piece. I think that was what you were alluding to when you were talking about that.
Yeah, and Riki, basically, we currently doesn't allow to do that because all of these are complexity. So, like,
Yes.
if you want to sell into UK, you need to be UK local warehouse to UK consumers, and
Yes.
if you want to sell in European, you need to be local inventory to local customers.
To be honest, from our third-party logistics business, and I don't know for other warehouse environments in the UK and in the EU, in ours we're very similar. We don't recommend a seller sells cross-border like that for individual items, and frankly, on their head be it if they want to, we would only ever recommend that they put their goods in our Dutch or our UK warehouse to be able to service those markets. So I absolutely echo that. It's a very it's a minefield in terms of regular traffic. You might get other ones through okay, but it's still a minefield in that traffic, and that's why we choose that kind of dual channel route.
Yeah,
so
Riki, can I ask a question? So I think there's a question regarding Italian. Yeah, in Italy we open to the to local sellers. So if you are Italian entity, you can do that. Yeah. Cool. And also, I think if you would like to have an invitation, I will send Riki the full piece of information we need. Yeah, and then you can request an invitation through Expandly. Yeah.
Yeah, we can certainly help you through what that kind of the pre-vetting piece will look like. And of course, if you need any of the other service credentials that you need to get going, we can help with fast tracking those pieces prior to making that application, so that you're ready to go live. And of course, if you wanted to sell it on additional Temu marketplaces in Europe, we can help you. And you're in the UK, for instance, we can of course help you put your goods into a warehouse in the Netherlands and help you with the VAT registration and the small pieces that go with that. So lots of opportunity. You can do it piece by piece. You'll still be selling on your existing marketplaces if you want to, but right now I urge anyone who's selling for those pieces to jump on this opportunity. Super timely. It's November 2024 if you're watching post live in terms of what that looks like. So Tony, thank you so much for your super candid insight. It's really refreshing to get this kind of deep dive into what a marketplace needs, because we can get super intense in trying to understand where we can find those people to bring into you, and hopefully get some real velocity for those sellers to be put in front of sellers, to put in front of buyers, and get some of those sales numbers that are rushing up there on those bottles. That's got to be enticing. So appreciate your time today in terms of what that looks like. If anyone wants to get in touch with Tony to understand how Temu might work for their business, please direct your questions via us at Expandly. You can send a message to us directly via our website. My details also, my colleagues can talk you through what that piece looks like. Expand is, as I mentioned earlier on, very, very close to being able to manage those listings directly in terms of converting those listings on behalf of the seller, which will make a huge, huge difference in terms of what that bit looks like. It then becomes an absolute no-brainer to be working through those. Appreciate everyone coming to listening today, and for the myriad of questions, tons and tons of questions today. So thank you very much. We'll be back online with some more expansion secrets and ways to expand your business in just a few more days. In the meantime, Tony, thanks ever so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.